What I just had happen to me this week, I'm just sick about. As you see, I'm at my rental, and I blocked off this week particularly to paint the peaks of my house, and I rented a boom lift to do that. Thought that was a genius move, right? I couldn't.
Sounds like a big move. Yeah.
I couldn't get the thing working right at all. I called them this morning and said, pick this thing up. I got nothing done. I wasted my week. And this time I put aside, and I might be out the money. I think it's the boom lifts, the problem, but it could be me. And if it's me, I'm out a lot of money and time. And I literally feel sick about it. Like I feel like a total failure right now. This morning. It's terrible. So I'm so glad that you and I are doing this podcast because it'll cheer me up and make me feel like I'm doing something productive.
Wow. So that sucks. I'm sorry about that, man.
Appreciate it. But tell me about what time management is like for you. And do you reserve your weekends for personal time to recharge your batteries? Just all of these general questions.
Yeah, this is a big subject right here because, time is something that I've heard this said at my job. My boss's boss likes to say this, and it's so true. Time is the one thing that you can't buy. You cannot buy time. Yeah. It is slipping away as we're talking right now. The minutes, the seconds, everything's slipping away. I can't believe how old I am right now.
Right.
I heard somebody. I was looking at this really old person, and then I found out they were not even 10 years older than me, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
I noticed that I'm getting some like wrinkles around my eyes when I smile and everything, and it's just like, okay, this is. I feel like George Jetson. Stop this crazy machine. It's how do you make it slow down, and you can't.
I got one tip for you.
Okay.
This is kind of fun. About 3 weeks ago or so, it was a gorgeous weekend, and Lisa and I decided we were going to do a staycation. We stayed in our backyard and didn't go. Oh, I think I sent you some pictures of the backyard. I'm like, this is our staycation.
Oh, beautiful. You have a beautiful yard.
Yeah, thank you. That's all, Lisa. It is beautiful,
That's
but
nice.
the point is it did slow down time. Like it felt like we had a long weekend. It was just a regular weekend.
I love that.
That is a good tip.
That's a great tip, actually. And I love that because it's like, I do use the weekends to recharge my battery. I have to have that. And when I don't have that, it makes the following week very difficult. It's almost all uphill for me. So I definitely need to recharge. And I'm a homebody, man. I like to be at home. And I do get my recharging here. And everything I need is right here. And that's how I am. But yeah, I mean, I use my Outlook calendar to plan things out so that I can see what's coming up next. I always check my calendar to make sure I'm prepared for the week because there's always something that's coming up and I don't want to get surprised by that. I have calendar reminders that help me out. And if I don't put it in the calendar, it might not happen. So that's a big deal for me. I also use I have this book here that I keep with me. It is bound. I use these to make lists in where it's like throughout the day things will happen. If I don't write it down, it might not happen. So I put it in a list, and this is kind of how I use. These are some things I use to manage my time.
Okay, that's a good tip. I typically use the back of an envelope kind of thing, that kind of disorganization.
Yes.
It's a bad thing because it can happen. Is people hijack
it happens all the time, right?
People hijack your
all
day
of a sudden it's gone.
In email.
Right.
Like all of a sudden I'm just battling emails. And so that's the importance of lists. I think you and I've talked about this before, and I should be better at it. There's also just a tip. There's a free online tool you could use for project management called Trello. And I try to use that a lot, but then I get away from it. And I definitely need to be better with lists. How about, go ahead if you got something to add.
Well, otherwise, whatever you're using for time management has got to be simple for me, at least.
Yes.
I mean, if it's too complicated, it's just not going to happen. That's why the pen and the paper works so well, because it's just not complicated. I'm a simple person. But the problem for me is that my handwriting has gotten so
Yeah.
awful that
Yeah.
a lot of times I'll write something down and I'm like, what the
I
heck?
know, because we
It's
write
like
so little.
hieroglyphics right there.
Uh-huh. I totally agree with you. All right, let's just get right into things, Merle. We as of this morning, I was listening to the latest breaking points, and they've been coming out every day with all of these emergency updates. And now they're saying they're quoting sources that Biden will be dropping out by Sunday, within 2 days.
That's what I've been hearing. The same thing here. It's all over the place that he's going to drop out, and I mean, you still don't know what's going to happen here. We don't know.
Right.
We're hearing from pretty credible sources that this is happening. We've heard that Obama weighed in yesterday and said that Joe should drop out, and we also heard Morning Joe really railing on Joe Biden yesterday. So yeah, it looks like
he's made a fool of himself.
The end is imminent. He really has. But it is his decision, and he has to make it. And they have a ton of campaign finance money that they don't want to go away. And if both Kamala and Joe were to drop out of the race, that will happen. And so they're kind of in a dilemma here.
They're in a big dilemma because they just said this morning, too, that the campaign funding has dried up to 25% of what was predicted originally. So they're in a mess, and it's a disaster of their own creation. So
it really is.
And I'm going to show a thing with Morning Joe, too, because he thoroughly discredited himself and mainstream media. He proved his about face, because this is. I did not share the sound because where is that sound button? There it is.
Down at the bottom left.
Oh, yeah. I hate that.
I know. Why?
I know. It should just come on anyway.
Regurgitate that message. This was Joe Scarborough on MSNBC.
I love
he's
her,
cogent.
by the way.
But I undersold him when I said he was cogent. He's far beyond cogent. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been. Intellectually, analytically, because he's been around for 50 years. Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth.
Can you believe that?
This
6 in the morning.
Version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever.
I don't know what else to say about that. So then he turns around, but he discredits. Okay, so basically everyone now knows what we already knew. But I mean, if you're really on the left, like that's your team, you got to be like, my God, I was bamboozled. They bamboozled me for the last 3-4 years. And the cat's out of the bag now. And now they're left with, they're talking about trying to possibly run Kamala. And both Newsom and Gretchen Whitmer said that they won't run with Kamala because that was a plan. It's a mess, dude. And this is not a democracy. Come on. I mean, that's quite evident now as well. We're not choosing our president.
No. This is true. And that is not so-called democratic. That is, they're going to make those choices. I got to say, I don't blame Gretchen Whitmer or Gavin Newsom for not wanting to run with Kamala, because it's going to be a gigantic cluster, and they don't want their name to be associated with it. And I suppose that the reason that neither one of them could slip in and actually run for president is because of Kamala. I think that, and I've heard behind the scenes that she's kind of pulled the race card on that whole thing. What are you going to usurp the first Black American vice president on this?
That's all she's got going for her.
And she has to be a part of the ticket, or even though it's down 20% or there's 20% of it, that money goes away. They need that money to come into this. But I mean, with the momentum that the Trump campaign has right now, it's hard to imagine anybody at this point that could come in this late in the game and make any kind of a difference. I was thinking, well, who could come in and really like change things
even
up
have
here.
a chance. I would say RFK Jr., if they were to court him from off the independent ticket and say, hey, we need you, Kennedy to represent our party. I think that would be a chance, but I don't think so anymore. After that disaster of the rally, or what was it, RNC? Is that when he got shot? Trump got shot?
No, this was before the RNC, which was this week.
That's right.
It was a rally.
Because they rolling right into the RNC with all of this momentum. That's what happened. And that was crazy, man. The fact that he turned his head at that last second, and here's a big positive, a huge positive. I heard a couple people say on podcasts that they have heard that Trump has gotten a lot more spiritual since that day, a week ago. And I like the sounds of that. I
do too. Well, it's interesting to watch because when I saw him in the RNC, I watched a lot of it. I mean, it's impossible to watch the whole thing, but I did watch a lot of it. And I got to say, Trump looks different. He sounds different. His whole demeanor, his countenance is different now. I feel like as of Saturday, everything changed.
Agreed.
Actually, it feels like the whole world changed. I feel like we're in a new realm now. This assassination attempt that happened on Saturday, really, I was not surprised that it happened. In fact, I think you and I talked several times on the show that this probably will try to kill him next because they can't get rid of him through lawfare. They can't get rid of him by trying to ruin his reputation. They tried to impeach him. They couldn't get rid of him. The only thing they have left is to kill him. Yeah. And so this happened. It wasn't surprising, but it was shocking still at the same time. And when you watch the video, I don't know, every time I watch it, I'm moved by the whole thing. It looks like something supernatural happened to me, Barry. From my own Christian faith, there's something in here that moved. And I don't think it has a lot to do with it's Trump. Because, I mean, I like Trump. I don't love him. You know what I mean? He's not somebody that I'm not going to bow down to Trump. He's a politician now, and I don't trust him because he's a politician. There's something that happened right there that was a very moving thing. And you and I have talked about how we've really talked about this, how something supernatural has to happen in order for this country to change, in order for us to get out of this whole thing.
You said a lot of times that, to me anyway, I don't know if you said it on the podcast, but you're like, there's been divine intervention throughout the American history that
absolutely,
that has guided us to something of greatness. And now we've been on this road to oblivion, really. And I think it started with the Obama era for the most part. But what Biden, I should say, what the deep state has done to us, trying to bleed us dry, surely to get us on digital currency. They want to crash the dollar. Oh yeah, I believe, not to mention just reap us for everything that they can in this money grab while they can. But I was talking to your brother a few days ago. Had a really good conversation with him. We were talking about this, and I said, you know what? I had a realization. I went from not liking Trump to kind of liking Trump as a result of this, because when he went through what he had a bullet whiz by his ear, through his ear, whiz by his head, bullets, and he got up immediately and raised his fist and yelled, "Fight." That shows you what he's made of.
That does show you what he's made of.
Have thought that. And I don't know, none of us know how we would react until we say, we'd love to say that we would react that way too, but none of us know until you're in that situation. Well, that got real. That's real. That's, there was some dorky guy on Breaking Points several days ago tried to say that this was staged. Oh, yeah.
I heard that a lot, actually.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Okay. Fire bullets at me. Just make sure you get my ear. Don't blow my
Yeah.
head. Yeah, right.
And
Okay.
it's okay if you kill people around me too.
Oh yeah, and yeah. By the way, I do have in my notes, and I want to just a shout out to Corey Comparatori. I would say this is the guy, the PA fireman,
Yes.
family man that died, wife and 2 daughters, and my God, that's awful. And that seems to have gotten lost in the importance of everything that's gone on. He died a hero, shielding his family.
He did.
And it's
He
awful.
really did. It really was. Thoughts and prayers to the family on that.
Yeah.
This isn't an attack on Donald Trump or an attack on the Republican Party. This is an attack on America and the American way. This is the front runner from the Republican Party that was shot at. This goes beyond partisan politics. It even goes beyond even the United States or world affairs.
hope.
This is a life thing right here. This comes right down to who we are as a people, human beings, and what kind of world do you want to exist in as a human being? Do you want to exist in a world where there's always somebody there that's oppressing you and controlling you and telling you what to think? It seems to me that the powers that be, the ones that have that desire to control everything and be God to you, made a decision to change America. And we saw that the other day. I have a very hard time believing that a 20-year-old kid made all of that happen by themselves.
There's
It's
still
very,
more to
very
the story.
hard to believe that.
Mhm.
In fact, I feel like we're sort of in the fog of war right now, where there's all kinds of information coming at us a mile a minute, and it's still kind of hard to decipher exactly what happened. But I don't think the narrated story that's been given to us is exactly what happened.
There's
here.
a lot of holes in that story.
Especially when you start to consider everything that's led up to this, like the Russian hoax and the false impeachments and the January 6th crap and all of the stuff around COVID and the mandates and all the lies that we've been told over the last several years here. And it's just been exposed. And you start to figure out that there's an invisible hand that's guiding all of this, that's above and beyond our own government, that there is a world plot that's going on here with global powers that are trying to consolidate governments into a one world government and to really sap all of the value out of these countries and commandeer it to themselves. That is really what's happening here, according to what I can see. And all of these things are in the Bible. They're highlighted very deeply in the Bible. And Barry, I wanted to show you something that came out about 4 weeks ago now. Speaking of the Bible and things that have happened, there is a prophecy that came out about 3.5 weeks ago. Now, you can believe this or not. I think it's incredibly coincidental that this happened. I'm going to play this and then I'm going to speak to it in a second. Hold on.
Saw an attempt on his life. This bullet flew by his ear and it came so close to his head that it busted his eardrum. And I saw he fell to his knees during this time frame and he started worshiping the Lord. He got radically born again during this time frame. I'm talking, people say he's saved now, but he becomes really on fire for Jesus, for what I saw coming. And then I saw people interceding when I saw him winning the presidency through great. The Lord showed me it would go clear into the summer. Great persecution would come on him through the judges and through the law and all these people trying to sue him and all this stuff. But there would be a stop to it, and their things would start to break free come toward the fall. And then I saw him winning the election through the Patriots coming out and voting, and throughout America, all throughout. And I saw Trump rising up, and then I saw an attempt.
So that came out about 3 weeks before the assassination.
I didn't know that. I thought that was post that assassination attempt.
No. This happened about three
Puts a
weeks
different
before.
light
That's
on it.
why everybody was so freaked out when as soon as the assassination attempt happened and this thing bubbled up again. Because I believe I saw this before it actually happened. Notice when he said a shot came very close to his ear, he actually pointed to his right ear, which was the ear that got shot. Now, I thought about this all week. Like, did I just witness something supernatural that happened? And when you take a look, Barry, there's some really crazy stuff about how close this actually came. And I've got another video here that I'm going to show you that demonstrates this. Did I stop sharing the screen? Okay, let me share again. But this is when you consider what happened here. Wait, I didn't put the sound on. When you consider what happened here, it's like, are you kidding me? Okay, let's pull this up. Here we go. Let me make this bigger. Okay, so this was a graphical, but this is a computer graphic of this whole thing.
Take a look what happened.
Look how he turned his head for some. Now he's turning to look at the monitor. He actually put up there some numbers on immigration and the results of immigration numbers under his administration compared to what's happening today. And as he looked up at the screen right here, the bullets missed his. That would have crashed right into his head, and that would have taken him out, and history would have changed.
Oh yeah,
it would have totally changed. So now, I've been thinking about, okay, what does this mean? Does this mean anything? I don't know, but it certainly has had a big impact. A friend of mine sent me something from the Torah, which is a Jewish writing on what's in it's sort of commentary on what's in the Old Testament. And he sent this to me. Take it for however you want to take it. But there is something about the blood on the right ear in the Bible. And this is what it says. In the Bible, the concept of blood on the right ear in Leviticus 8:22 through 24 and also 14:28 serves as a visible mark of consecration, signifying that the person is dedicated to God's service and has been set apart for a specific purpose. The act represents a physical and spiritual transformation, preparing the individual for their sacred role. Here's a breakdown of the significance. Right ear. The right ear represents hearing and obedience. In ancient times, the right ear was considered the most important ear, as it was the ear that heard the words of God. Blood. Blood represents life, sacrifice, and atonement. In this context, the blood is a symbol of purification and consecration. Consecration. Consecration means to set something or someone apart for a specific purpose, making it holy and dedicated to God. In this case, the blood on the right ear signifies that the person is being set apart for a sacred task or role. Priestly consecration in Leviticus 8. The blood is applied to the right ear of Aaron and his sons, consecrating them as priests. This act sets them apart as mediators between God and people. And finally, purification in Leviticus 14. The blood is applied to the right ear of the person being cleansed, symbolizing their purification and restoration to the community. So that's what I got. And it is very, very interesting as I watched the Republican National Convention this week. As I said, he seems to have been shot on Saturday, and when he rose up and put his fist up in the air, it was a different person. And when I saw him and heard him, I heard his demeanor last night. How he spoke, he sounds different. His facial, the countenance of his face, it seems more at peace and more humbled. more of it kind of reminds me of that movie, The Ten Commandments, where Moses goes up to the mountain, and then when he comes back down, he's got like gray hair and everything. Really, that he I can't explain it, Barry, but here's another thing that has happened is that when people see Trump now, they weep and they can't explain what's happening. I have had this happen too, and I think it's because of how proud I am to be an American. But something is happening now, and I want to play something else for you here too. I'm queuing it up right now. Something is changing, and it's changing people's hearts. You mentioned it too, Barry, that you kind of like the guy now. How is that possible? But here's somebody that's feeling the same way, and I just want to play this. Wait, can you hear that?
Barely.
Let me turn that up a little. Okay, here we go. Oh, here it is.
For 3 people just to survive in Biden's economy.
Why am I crying over the Republican National Convention? Like, what the frick is going on?
It's upsetting. It's upsetting to see
this world that we're living in right now.
To help immigrants
Hold on, let me pause this.
While
Woo, this world that we're living in right now feels like upside down land. I've been a Democrat for nearly 50 years. Why am I crying over the Republican National Convention? Like, Amber Rose did a beautiful job. Oh, she did a beautiful job. I'm so proud of her. And then all the diversity and just, I think I'm crying because it's cognitive dissonance. It's cognitive dissonance. Like, what is going on? I've been told my whole life Republicans are just all, white and racist men and all of this. I don't think I've probably ever watched a Republican National Convention. Let's start there. You don't know unless you go see for yourself and stop listening to what people tell you. It's just so beautiful. Just the patriotism, the coming together. I'm telling you, if you on the outside and you think MAGA is this horrible thing, I don't know what to tell you besides you have to see for yourself. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. The coming together of America. America saying no more, no longer. We're not going to do this. We're not going to divide ourselves. We are red, white, and blue.
Well, I hope there's some truth to this. I'm not quite as sold. I have doubts because I don't really care for the Republican Party very much. I find them to be very...
I don't think this is about the Republican Party, though.
Well, that is my point.
I think it's about America.
If
that's what this person is saying.
I understand. Yes. I'm just I need to see more.
It's not
of
the
this.
Republicans. The hell with the Republicans, Barry.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the Republicans whatsoever. But here's what I see happening is there's a change that's happening. That's what's going on here. It looks like there's a change. It looks like the change you have been talking about is
awakening from woke.
Yes, seems like it's actually starting to happen.
I'm hoping
at light speed right now. When Trump got shot, Barry, it leveled the playing field to wait a second. You're going to attack America? It wasn't you're attacking Donald Trump anymore. I'm seeing all these people. A lot of them were at the Republican National Convention. They were saying we didn't even care about politics until now. Hulk, the guy that played Hulk Hogan, was there, and he came out. He gave a speech yesterday that I thought was awesome because I kind of like the guy. But he talked about the fact that he's a celebrity, and as a celebrity, he knows he's 70 years old. He's never gotten involved in politics ever. until he saw what happened on Saturday. And now he's just like, I can't not say anything anymore. And I think that's what we're seeing now. Here's people that have had enough of all of these lies that we've been told by the establishment, not Republicans and Democrats, because it's the people that are in those parties that are part of the deep state establishment, which is most of them. Good.
Well, the big problem that we've had in this country that I hope that this is where it's leading is the not just the wicking from woke, but the disintegration of the Trump derangement syndrome. And if you just got really mad because I said those words, you probably haven't. People do get super, super mad about that. So if we can make this about not the party, as you say, and if we can roll into get Trump to not just simply give more tax cuts to the rich when he gets in there, but if he is humbled, if he is seeing some light, and if he does go in there and say, I'm going to make a historic change for this country that I love so much, and then they won't be fought tooth and nail by these ridiculous impeachments and all the other all the bizarre crap. You mentioned before, January 6th, they're still trying to prop that up like it wasn't instigated by the FBI or something like. I mean, there's just way too much clown stuff that has gone on, and it's gone on because the corporate media has that control over the word. And look what happened. They took Joe Scarborough off air the other day because they were afraid that nut job would say the wrong thing right after the assassination attempt. You didn't know that?
No, tell me about that.
I got a clip here somewhere too about his response to it. But I'll just tell you about it. I can't believe you didn't hear about this. Oh, he was so angry.
There's been too much, Barry. There has been news.
And I got all this Joe Scarborough stuff. So they said that they were going to use some kind of emergency program. And this is what MSNBC told him and his squeeze, Mika, whatever her name is.
Yeah, Mika.
And so the next day they came on the air, and of course she looks like she's smelling a fart as always. And he's yelling at the camera about how if they ever do that again, that they're going to sit there in their chairs. We're going to come in there. We're going to sit in these chairs if they're, because we preach the news. And so anyways,
the news, right? Did they actually? I wonder if they said preach.
They literally blocked him because they were afraid of what he would say. Because of course he would say, something like, next time you better get him, something like that. And so there's just been this is what I mean. I should try to find that clip because it's so important to what we're talking about, how just the veil has come off of everyone's eyes as to what the corporate media has been doing to us.
Well, I totally agree with you. And I mean, after the assassination, I was saddened and sickened, but again, not surprised by all of the videos that came out of people that were saying, literally crying because the shooter missed Trump. And they were saying the most heinous things. These are people that supposedly support democracy.
Oh, God.
You want to see the president's head explode? I mean, you don't understand that this is a person that has a wife and kids and grandkids, and you want this person to just die in a heinous way? What kind of sick?
And it's not just that. It's the fact
that, but record yourself for all time to be seen saying that and have no qualms about that whatsoever.
I don't realize.
I can't understand that, right?
And these people were not raised to be like that by their parents, but they just it's the hate is addictive. I say all the time, when you hear MSNBC on in the background, all you hear is Donald Trump, Donald Trump. It's just like that all day long. And so that you let that soak into your head. It's going to have an effect on you. But the other thing is about this democracy. We need to save democracy. Well, look what they're doing with the election. Can you put two and two together and realize you've been completely bamboozled? I mean, this party, I mean, clear. So who do you think? Now everyone has to ask themselves, who has been running the country for real for the last 3 years, 3.5 years?
Right.
You know, Joe Biden isn't.
True.
Right.
Can't be him. I mean, I can't. I was just imagining, like, I bet you when they come into the White House, the next president, they're going to find like candy wrappers all stuffed into the Oval Office or whatever. You know, I mean, it's going to be like, well, what is this doing here? You know, I can't imagine that Joe Biden is organized in any way whatsoever.
Right.
He doesn't even look like he knows which way he's going. So how could you run your own life, let alone run the country? It's just really crazy to think about. But back to the hatred that we saw this week, it just seemed like it just over the top. And so Biden comes in and gives a speech on Sunday to address the nation. And I remember thinking, what a great opportunity for Joe Biden at this point to come in and be the person that can soothe the calm the heart of the nation. Really, that's your job as the president. I wondered what took him so long. He did it on Sunday evening, but I'd have been on that like immediately on Saturday.
They literally got to gauge when he has a moment of lucidity.
That's exactly right. And so that was what came to my mind too, is that they got to get him so that he's awake and that he's lucid. And what he said was that it was time to turn the temperature down on this whole thing. And so that's what I thought was going to happen. I was mistaken. You know, we saw, it looks like you have something here, because I saw the Lester Holt interview the next day, I think it was.
Yeah, I think I have that up too. Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this is one of the toughest interviews that I've ever seen Holt give to Biden. But he did say, look, you said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. Do you regret saying that? And do you think that some of the things that you've said had spurred this kind of thing to happen? I mean, you know, there are weak minds out there that could have been influenced by this. And he said, no, look at what this guy is doing. Look at what this guy is doing to the democracy. I can't just sit there and not say anything.
Listen to this one.
So he doubled down. Wait, one last one.
Go ahead.
Where he says, well, then, okay, what would happen if you had another event like you did at the debate?
I think I had that one up here.
And Joe Biden said, well, I'm not going to let that happen again. It
was
like, oh my God.
This was yesterday. It's just every time he gets in front of a camera.
It sure is. Look, I mean, for example, look at the heat I'm getting because I named the Secretary of Defense, the black man. I named Ketanji Brown. I mean, because of
the black man. This guy is so racist. He doesn't even know it. And but then there's the other part. And this is like, I did a quick search.
Before you play that, I'm
not going to play
on that.
I was just going to say that, you know, he runs around the country. Well, the deep state has ordered him to run around the country talking about white supremacy.
Yeah.
And so they just stoked the fire of racism throughout this throughout the America. And it's ridiculous. I mean, we're the least racist country on the planet, but I'll tell you, in the last 4 years, actually since Obama, in the last 10 plus years, it's there's a fake hysteria about racism that's been prompted up here. What did you want to say about that?
I kind of forgot because I was moving on to something else, but I was going to say that, you know, the Democrat Party has the responsibility at this point, and really the Republican Party as well, really all politicians to okay, somebody's been shot at over this. There should be messages of unity that are happening now, but I have a video here of the RNC where there are trucks outside of the RNC that say that Trump is a going to be a dictator. Like they parked all these trucks around the perimeter of the RNC, and they all have these signs on it that say Trump dictator on day one.
How does that make any sense? Like, he was already president before, didn't
I know what you mean.
When we get a chance, you go ahead, play your video, but I want to get back to this whole assassination attempt and the failure of the Secret Service and just the bizarreness that they did not put a person on that rooftop. I mean, any amateur would say that's the first place you put somebody.
It's crazy. What is it? The head of the Secret Service, Cheadle, is in the crosshairs.
Did you see her interview? Oh,
yes,
she was terrible.
Oh, she's absolutely awful. We know that she was doing DEI hiring beforehand.
That's another positive to come out of this.
What's happened was that the Secret Service, after this, you see people running around like chickens with their heads cut off, and unfortunately, it was the women that were looking like that. So you got that, okay?
Sniper element. Was somebody able to take that person out? Now, when you have counter sniper, your counter snipers are always going to be at an elevated position. So if you're in an urban environment,
protecting your life. So that's a DEI again. The awakening from woke. Everyone knows DEI doesn't work. It's destructive. Now we got to have an assassination attempt to prove it. So again, I think 2024 is a big awakening.
And you know that the Democrat Party passed a bill to eliminate Secret Service protection for Donald Trump earlier this year. And so they definitely had taken Secret Service. President Biden had taken Secret Service protection, or did not allow Secret Service protection for RFK Jr. of all people.
Right.
He should have it. By the way, on Sunday, the Biden administration did grant RFK Jr. Secret Service protection. So that is one change that happened.
Good.
We have heard a lot of different things here, but Barry, I want to share this with you, is that immediately after the shooting, these publications came out with these headlines to really try to change the story of what actually happened. So as we see, Trump escorted away after loud noises after PA rally. Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after popping noises heard at his Pennsylvania rally, and MAGA responds with outrage after Donald Trump injured at Pennsylvania rally. Now, here's something interesting about all of this BS that these publications put out. What is that? USA Today, it's the Washington Post, it's NBC News, Newsweek. This is really, I mean, how horrible. This is such a great example of how the press is trying to mislead us on purpose. And how sick is this that this happened? And how do these people stay in business after the president? But this is like the biggest story ever, and you're going to say this? This is so insane.
But this is another positive, because most people in this country know that you don't trust the corporate media today. But there's still a lot of people that have. So think about the awakening here. The amount of people that are now going, oh, I guess corporate media is kind of messed up.
Yeah, you're right about that. And, it's interesting how things are happening and how they're going to play out in the future. We talk about Trump derangement syndrome. Well, right after the assassination, Jack Black and his bandmate were in Australia on a tour. And it was KG, that's his Kyle Gass is his partner. And it was his birthday, and he went to blow out the birthday candles. And when he made a wish, he wished that the shooter was more accurate, or next time hit Trump, is what he said.
That's so predictable, though.
But the backlash on this was not predictable to me. So Jack Black has canceled the rest of his tour. He's received intense backlash after his bandmate Kyle Gass said, "I don't miss Trump next time." And here's Jack Black saying, "I was blindsided, but by what was said at the show on Sunday. I would never condone hate speech or encourage political violence in any form. After much reflection, I no longer feel it's appropriate to continue the tenacious detour, and all future creative plans are on hold. I'm grateful to the fans for their support and understanding. That's a big change to me, Barry, because that kind of stuff before this, nobody would care.
Oh, that's an interesting point. Kind of all over the place.
May have ruined his career right there by making those kinds of statements, where before these were career enhancers. I did want to point out one other thing too, which is that all of those news articles were talking about, like the last one was talking about how angry the Republicans, MAGA Republicans are. And I hate how they use MAGA as a swear word. Like, you're MAGA.
Yeah.
And it's like, make America great again is a bad word somehow.
Right.
Like, how did that happen? But one thing I'll point out, and we've seen like the George Floyd riots. We've seen riots all over the place. It seems like the American people are very touchy. When something happens, they go right to the street and burn stuff down.
Right.
But when President Trump gets shot at, nothing like that happened. I think that's very interesting. I think it's also interesting as you take a look at that crowd that when the shooting happened, and how people didn't trample each other trying to get the hell out of there. They stood there while bullets were still whizzing by. They stood there to make sure that the president was okay. That's highly unusual. Normally, and you mentioned it earlier, the guy got shot and then he stood up and raised his fist in there. Who does that?
Right.
The picture that came out of that with him raising his fist with the flag in the background. Are you kidding me? I mean, how could that line up with the flag in the background like that? Like, this is an iconic shot that's never going to go away from history.
It's historic, right?
And and again, it surpasses it. It's elevated above partisan politics. This is the spirit of America right here. It's sort of the George Washington crossing the Delaware painting. It's the Iwo Jima flag being raised up. It's an icon of American strength. And now this guy, Donald Trump, is representing that. I don't know who could beat that in the election.
No. It's definitely there's not really much of an election happening at this point. I just hope see you sound so much more hopeful about all of that than I am. I'm hoping like, okay, best case scenario is it puts a tamper on this TDS stuff. And there's always the thing that drives me crazy. Politically, you're only allowed to speak from one side. Basically, in most of society, you're not. If you're from the right, you're not allowed to state your opinions. But if you're from the left, you can talk about it all day long. And so I hope that this levels the playing field, and it just gets. So I mean, just what I just said, doesn't that sound so irrational for America? Well, I hope things start to get more rational. Is my point.
Yeah, I hope you're right about this. And it could be. Anything could happen at this point as far as what's going to happen. I mean, all bets are off now. Anything could happen. I remember even when President Trump was elected, I didn't think he was going to be elected. Like when he got elected, it was okay, well, anything could happen, I guess.
Right. I was shocked. We were talking about it back then. We were both shocked. I was up till like 2 a.m.
He got elected?
Yeah.
It's funny. It kind of reminds me of that Eddie Murphy skit from back in the 1980s when he was real young, and he said, "Imagine a black guy running for president," and he talked about how somebody going into the voter booth and going, "As a joke, I'm going to vote for this black guy," and then they puts the vote in, and then he won. Everyone.
Well, you asked who could stand up in this presidential race. Well, it's not going to be this guy. Have you heard this right here?
So the state is the parent in California now, Gavin Newsom, and then Elon Musk. And here's the big one. This is the final straw. Because of this law and the many others that preceded it, attacking both families and companies, SpaceX will now move its headquarters from Hawthorne, California to Starbase, Texas. This is absolutely huge. Then Elon continued, I did make it clear to Governor Newsom about a year ago that laws of this nature would force families and companies to leave California to protect their children. And Elon continued even further, and X headquarters, that's Twitter headquarters, will move to Austin. Now, something is happening culturally that...
See? Something is happening culturally. This is the theme of the show. And it's an awakening. And, you know, I'm not ever going to be a rah-rah Republican or anything, but I think Trump has to be our way out of this deep state mess. Who else could?
I agree with you on
dude,
that.
That's pushing a big giant boulder up a mountain.
Yeah.
Getting through deep state.
I hear you. And I think that more people need to be aware of where is all of this coming from. And we've talked about this a lot. You know, who our enemies really are. Is it the Democrats? Is it the Republicans? I think the Democrats and the Republicans are being pitted against each other by another force. And Barry, I want to share something with you. I don't know if you saw this. This is along the subject here, but you take a look at this. This guy, the shooter, was in this commercial.
Oh, God, I didn't know this. It's a BlackRock commercial.
Ago. There he is right there in the BlackRock commercial. This is a commercial about the teacher, his teacher, but apparently the BlackRock is
deep state.
They're not the good guys.
No, they're not.
BlackRock, they're not the good guys. These are the globalists.
This is our oligarchy right here.
That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. And it's a global oligarchy. And they're the ones. They are the invisible hand that is moving things. So this kid right here, it's hard for me. Like I said, it's very hard for me to believe that he acted alone on this. And the fact that he's associated with BlackRock in any way, that was the first alarm bell for me on this whole thing, on what's actually happening. So I started looking into a couple other things. Did you know that Donald Trump's Truth Social was shorted on the stock exchange in a big way on the Friday before the assassination?
Really? What? Okay,
Yeah.
I can't put that two and two together. Why would somebody short it? Why would? Because I would think that it would spur more activity, more positive favor for Truth Social.
Yeah. So let me see if I can find this here. No, what the speculation is here, Barry, is that people knew that this was going to happen before it happened, and they knew that this would destroy the company had that actually happened.
Had he gotten killed?
Had he been killed?
Oh,
right.
yeah,
So,
I see.
So there's a and I had a link to all of this, and for some reason my link is not working. That's just great.
Well, then that's kind of cool that they shorted it, and then things turned out the way they did, because I think they probably just lost a lot of money.
They absolutely did lose a lot of money on this. They sold, the company is called the Austin Investment Company, I think it's called. This particular company, they sold 12 million shares of the Truth Social stock on Friday. They sold it at a discounted price. This firm has never, ever sold that much stock in one day.
Wow.
The implications on this are pretty crazy, especially when you start to see the people that are surrounding this whole thing, like the Bush family and their associations there. We know that there's no love lost between Bush and Trump. And, and, you know, the more I study it out, it looks like George W. is a globalist, and this company is totally involved in this. I mean, why would they do something like that? How would they know? very, very suspicious. I wish I still had the link because I could give you some more information on this, but I do have some other information here that I want to read out to you because there's a lot of weird things that are happening, and one of them has to do with the building that the shooter was on.
Yeah.
There's alarming details. This is from Laura Loomer. She's saying there's alarming details around the building used by the shooter to almost assassinate the president. Why the company that owns the building is not talking. It turns out that AGR International, the building Thomas Matthew Crooks shot from, was just sold in March to a Clayton, Dubilier and Rice subsidiary called Indicor. It's worth noting that Joseph L. Rice is the founder of Clayton, Dubilier and Rice is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, and he's also a member of the Brookings Institution, the same Brookings Institute that's perpetuated lawfare campaigns against President Trump in order to keep him off the ballot for the 2024 presidential election. Wow. Not only that, but this company has Indicor recently formed a partnership with somebody by the name of John Celeb. John Celeb was the senior vice president of global policy and public affairs at Pfizer, a position he remained at until 2022. And in the 2020 election, Celeb was a max donor to Joe Biden's campaign. I think that's kind of funny. Now, this guy also, Celeb, spent 12 years working for the U.S. Senate and became chief of staff for Senator Baucus. Baucus is a person who Joe Biden ended up appointing ambassador to China. Now Baucus is an advisor. He's a board member on the Chinese Communist Party owned Alibaba Group, which is sort of the Google of China. So some really weird connections to that building. The president of that company, Indicor, Doug Wright, is saying that law enforcement was on the premise of the building before the shooting took place. And we're hearing that they were actually inside of the building, the police, when the shooting took place. Lots of really, really weird stuff there, Barry.
I don't know if we'll ever really get the real truth about what happened.
I don't know either. I got one more thing to show you that I thought was an interesting picture. Let's see if I saved it properly. Yes, yay. Let me go to share. I thought this was later that day of the assassination. Here's the FBI. What? You're hosing down the crime scene? Yeah. Why would that happen? Again, there's lots more weird stuff on this. I think we're just scratching the surface on this. And I think what the job is to find out who actually was involved in this. And with the FBI doing the investigation, the same organization that's been persecuting Trump, I'm having a hard time believing that they're going to come to any resolution. By the way, did you hear that the court case on the documents got thrown out on Monday? The documents that they seized from Mar-a-Lago?
No. I don't think I heard that. There's so much going on.
Buried. It was buried. The judge threw that out, said that it was unconstitutional, how that came. And you'd take a look at some of the stuff that was uncovered. Remember those pictures that we were shown with all of those documents that they had and that they pulled out of those boxes? Those were planted there. That came out too. It was rigged. It was, and we knew it at the time, but it takes. It's so frustrating that this injustice is happening, and back to our point, it seems like the eyes are opening, Barry, and people are seeing this for what it finally is. To the thing you've been saying over and over, I've been the one that's been skeptical of it. It sounds like maybe you're more skeptical of it now than I am. But it seems like people's eyes are opening up to this mess that we're in right now. As a matter of fact, we've even got a report on CNN where it's like, okay, are you going to say something nice about Trump now? I mean, that's insane. I've got it where they're predicting a landslide this November. CNN is saying that.
Wow, CNN's saying that. Well,
let me pull that up, because I mean that's worthy of looking at here. And why are they saying that? I think it's really important to check this out, because it is this is a game changer, and I think it has a lot to do with the assassination.
But this is our current CNN projection of where we are now. And look at this. If Donald Trump won what we have here, dark red states, solid Republican. Light red states, leaning Republican. If he won just those right there, he would already have the path to 270. He would have 272 electoral votes. Look what is different. We have Wisconsin as a toss-up. We have Pennsylvania as a toss-up, 2 critical states for Joe Biden. Michigan right now, another critical state for Biden, leaning Republican. Georgia, a state Biden flipped, leaning Republican. Arizona, a toss-up state. That was a state Biden flipped. Nevada, a state he won, leaning Republican. This is the dire strait for Joe Biden right now on the first night of the Republican convention. Tomorrow is 16 weeks to Election Day. 16 weeks from tomorrow, we count the votes. It is tough to change a map like this in that amount of time. And here's why Democrats are so worried, why so many Democrats are saying, Mr. President, please reconsider and get out of this race. Because right now, Trump is leading here. And Trump is leading here, narrowly, but he's ahead in those states. Trump is leading here. That's 312 electoral votes. Trump is leading in this Nebraska congressional district. Let me change it that way. Nebraska does it by congressional district. That's 313 electoral votes. And Democrats are warning that Trump may not be well ahead. It may still be margin of error. It might be a tie. But right now, Trump is competitive here. That's blue Virginia. That's blue New Hampshire. So the warnings to the White House are Donald Trump could conceivably, if the current dynamics in the race hold, get 330 or more electoral votes. That's what they believe.
That's a tremendous defeat. And interestingly, the polls that we see show them like, oh, well, Trump is now, they're saying 5 or 6 points up. But even that seems very odd, like only 5 or 6 points up. How could that be when you see what's going on? It's like there's one guy that can fog up a mirror and another guy that I'm not sure could fog up a mirror.
Right. Yeah. And, for what it's worth, I'm going to play another gaffe clip. I don't remember. I had so many different ones up. I don't remember which
what
one.
What happens if
the
you have
Lester
another
Holt
performance on that on that level?
Oh, I don't plan on having another performance on that level.
I don't even think you could verbate that because it's inaudible.
Oh, geez, man. It's every day. It's every day. So to the point of that map, dude, everybody is seeing this every day now. And they know, I've said this earlier, and now people are like, I've been getting bamboozled for the last 3.5 years. I don't know. I hate being manipulated. I hate being taken for granted and being lied to. It offends me. So I think probably it offends a lot of other people too. My point is, I think that map is, as of today, as of last Saturday, I think it's going to be a little more red than that currently is.
Yeah. And that's a landslide that we're seeing right there. And I think that you're right, Barry, that people are going to start to realize that all of this racism talk, because that's really their main point, is that Donald Trump is a racist and he's going to implement racism. And they try to say, oh, he said there are good people on both sides. Well, even Snopes has come out to say that was a lie. I mean, we could see that whole thing. But during the convention, I purposely was watching it on ABC or more of the mainstream channels because I wanted to hear what their comments were afterwards, and it was disheartening. I almost changed the channel because they were really bringing me down. I'd be so excited about what I was seeing, and then I'd hear them, well, he's a liar, let's count all the lies that he said. That kind of stuff was happening. But JD Vance, the vice presidential pick here, I think was a good one.
Yeah, I think so.
I think he's a solid guy. He's only 39 years old, from Ohio. Of course, everything Ohio I love. including you, Barry.
Uh,
And this is JD Vance, and boy, the guy is like 6'5". I didn't realize that until my friend Mike Burke actually drove him when Trump came out here for a rally right after his trial was over. He came here first, and my friend Mike Burke got to be part of the caravan, where they drive Trump around with those big SUVs. Mike got to drive one of those, and he's an ex-pilot, and he loves that kind of stuff. Like, they were driving like 90 miles per hour through these towns. They can go right through red lights and stuff like that, and they're driving in tight formation and everything. He loves that. And he had JD Vance in his car. And he told me, JD's like 6'5". I thought he was a short, like kind of chubby guy, but he's a tall, like kind of skinny guy. Anyhow, he said, what a personable guy. And he was delighted. And he knew at that time that JD was going to be the pick. He's been telling me about that. But glad to see that whole thing. But here's something that happened after his speech. And I thought it was an okay speech. I think he was kind of introducing himself to the country in this speech. He said some pretty fun things, some cool stories about his family and everything. And, he wrote that book, Hillbilly Elegy, and very popular. And so he was talking about his wife, who is an Indian, very pretty. And he was talking about how, when they got older, that he wanted to be buried with her in the family plot in Kentucky, and then he wanted his kids to be buried there as well. He just kind of mentioned that in passing, that was sort of a tradition in the Vance family. And these commentators from MSNBC, I think it was, yes. Oh my gosh, they are so mean. I mean, they're mean people. But this woman was on, and it was Joy Reid, and she had a guest on, and this guest was saying, this whole thing where he wants to be buried in this plot that's the Kentucky Vance family, as opposed to the San Diego Vance family where his wife comes from, that just shows his patriarchal white privilege that he has. And this is a sign that he's going to implement white. Why does he have to have it
He's
in
a one-trick
Kentucky?
pony.
Why does he have to have it in Kentucky with the white side of the family? And it's like, really?
Yeah.
That's your thing? Like, that's your warning to America? This guy's a bigot because he wants to be buried with his wife.
That's such a turnoff.
I know. And I mean, if you would have said, I want to be buried there, but except for my wife, she's got to be buried over in San Diego, or I could have bought that, but I mean, you're stretching so much to find bigotry that I just think this isn't going to work anymore for the masses.
Right. No, I totally agree, and that's pretty disgusting. But I do hope that with JD Vance as the pick, like, I hope that it's the Vivek Ramaswamy thing that I was talking about before, meaning I hope that he can inspire the younger generations and make them feel like they are empowered and they have a voice in this guy. Like we said before, I mean, to counter the deep state, all of that corporate money that it just grips all of Washington, the largest organization in the history of mankind. That's a problem. You would need him to, like, just really become a hero and take the ball and run with it for another 8 years after Trump.
That's exactly what I believe the plan is here. That's why Trump picked JD Vance, because of his, not only his what he feels is a great pick, but he's 39 years old. He's going to be around for a long time, and Trump actually mentioned that during his speech last night. But you also have other young guys like Vivek coming in there as well. He's definitely going to be a part of this. Although it is interesting, I didn't realize he was from Ohio. And so there's talk now that he will slip into that senatorial role that JD Vance has left. Last I heard Vivek talking about it, he said he needed to consult with Trump on this. And I think Trump is going to say, nope, I want you as Secretary of State. That's the rumbling that I've heard in the background. So we'll see what happens there. But I think he would be a great Secretary of State.
Oh,
We need a guy that understands the global threat that's happening. And this guy understands, the whole thing about BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, and how these globalists are using it to form a extra government that's on top of our government, that's more powerful than our government. He gets it. We've heard him talk about it. He's very articulate about it. He can break it down so that people can understand it, and that's exactly what we need. And we need him going after these people, because those are the enemies. Those are the ones that those are the gremlins in our system right now that need to be expedited right out of our system.
See, and that's where I worry about Trump a lot, is because he's known to be the deal maker, and all of that money is right there at the top, and that's what gets you elected. And so that's I do worry about that. I don't know.
I hear you, man. I'm going to play another video here I think is important along the same lines that you're talking about, because what does happen if Trump is elected, and how does the world see that whole thing? Let me see here. I've got this right here. Pull that up. Pardon me. Okay, this is Yuval Harari, who is the top advisor to Klaus Schwab at the WEF, and this is the big beehive of the globalists here. This guy does a lot of talking for them. Let's hear what he has to say.
Might be elected again.
I think it's very likely. And if it happens, it is likely to be the kind of like the death blow to what remains of the global order. And he says it, and he says it openly. Now, again, it should be clear that many of these politicians, they present a false dichotomy, a false binary vision of the world, as if you have to choose between patriotism and globalism, between being loyal to your nation and being loyal to some kind of, I don't know, global government or whatever.
Are you concerned that Trump might?
Wow.
Boy, interesting, I think, is that they're saying it out loud that they see him as a threat, an existential threat to them.
I liked it.
And this is why I think what happened on Saturday is coming from them. They're the ones that control the hedge funds. They're the ones that have possession of the military-industrial complex. They know that Trump is going to come in there and he's going to end that war in Ukraine. He's going to end the war in Israel. He's not going to be buying into this the one world order. He's going to shut down the border. These people are 100% behind that. He's going to destroy all of their plans in one fell swoop. And now they're just coming out and saying it. And they have more money than our country has. They control more money than our GDP. And so they're coming, and they're not done. This is not over. And we're going to see more shenanigans as we get closer and closer to the elections. But Barry, isn't it interesting? Several months ago, we talked on the show about, boy, we're coming up to this. I wonder what's going to happen. Boy, so far, I have not been disappointed. They really, this has been a fireworks show so far.
It has. I just wanted to go here for a minute. I listened to this podcast. I shared it with you about a week. 5 days ago, I would say. And this is Tim Dillon's podcast, which I really like. He's a comedian. He does all these rants, and he's friends with Alex Jones. And check out Jones blurring this out as he's swigging vodka right out of the bottle here.
He's with us. He's the only guy that I could really think of that I wanted to talk to about this and what's going on.
He's the most unhealthy looking guy I've ever seen in my life. But boy, he's kind of really going off the deep end, and he is saying that there's definitely going to be another assassination attempt. I think he said like within a week. I forget all the crazy stuff he said, but he's such a character that I always got to listen to what he says. I take it with a grain of salt, but sometimes, he's like an artist, like a really good artist, and people like that are usually a little crazy. And
I agree.
And it got the mind tipped right into the other side a little bit. He's kind of like that.
You can't discount the things that he says, because so many of the things he said about what's going to happen have been 100% accurate. Like the whole 9/11 thing, he called 2 months before it happened exactly what happened. He said.
Right.
So now it's like I started listening to him this week as well, and I had to turn him off because he scared the crap out of me.
Yeah. Oh, that's what he said. He's preparing to die. At the very end, he's totally obliterated, and he's talking about how he's prepared to die. Oddly enough, like his daughter kept coming over and hugging him and stuff and comfort him, and but he didn't talk about his family or his kids. He's talking about I'm prepared to die because of a nuclear war or something to that. That's it. He says nukes are going to get launched.
Well, I mean, I feel like this, as far as launching nukes, it doesn't seem like, for instance, the CCP launching nukes here in the United States would destroy their plan. Their plan is to take over this land and use it as living space. But if you contaminate it with nuclear fallout, then why would you do that? Right. I think the nuclear threat is always a threat, but I think it's really such last resort now, because people aren't into destroying the land that they want to take over anymore. That seems to be a change in warfare tactics these days. Here's why I say that. It had everything to do with Iraq. And the Chinese did a lot of writing as Iraq was happening and after it was happening, and what they were saying was warfare's changed. This doesn't work anymore. There's a much better way of warfare, and it's really the Sun Tzu art of war kind of thing, right? Exactly, where they can win a war without firing a shot, and then they could just dance right in and take over. That's really the new form of warfare. And we've been under attack for years now. This lawfare that's happening is a big part of it. And I want to go back to California for a second, because I think that a lot of what's happening is just a microcosm of what China has in store for us. And I say China because California is so in the hip pocket of the CCP. One of the things that California does is they've got their whole state retirement package, the pension package, is all invested in Chinese bonds.
Oh my God!
And so that is just a house of cards that's waiting to fall right here. But I wanted to put up some of the laws that have been passed over the past year or so. And a lot of this is going after kids, but it is crazy. This one that just passed, as you mentioned earlier, and the reason why I don't think that Gavin Newsom is going to be the guy is because he's done all these things. This one that just passed allows children to hide gender dysphoria from parents and allows minors' rights to supersede parental rights. SB 145 allows convicted pedophiles to not register as sex offenders if victim was over age 14 and there was a 10-year or less age difference.
Jeez.
I know these are like, what kind of place? 132 allows men to transfer into women's prisons if they self-identify as a woman with no guardrails. AB 5 ended the livelihood of millions of hardworking independent business owners and gig workers starting in January 2020. AB 665 gave insurance equity, but also allows children 12 years plus to run away from home, and state will house them with no parental consent.
Wow.
Why are they stealing our kids?
Who would support that?
Apparently the whole government of California, because they made these laws. Creates SB 107 creates California as a sanctuary state for child sterilization and mutilation. Gives state power to take custody of kids from any state if one parent doesn't agree. So Gavin Newsom can take a kid from Ohio and bring them in on the tax dollars of the Californians and change their and change their sex. Prop 47 measure in reducing the criminal penalties on many nonviolent drug and property crimes from felonies to misdemeanors. AB 1078 removes local control of school boards and silences parents who object to inappropriate policies and sexual materials in their schools. Can you believe this?
Wow.
SB 44 would have de-incentivized. Oh, these are what they blocked. SB 44 would have de-incentivized selling fentanyl by charging drug dealers with murder if the user dies. And SB 14, get this, why would they block this? Makes child sex trafficking a serious felony. Was blocked by Democrat Public Safety Committee, but ultimately passed after public outcry.
Wow.
Like, why would they try to? This is why I moved out of this state, Barry, because your tax dollars support all of this evil. This is evil.
It's evil. That's going right after the kids. Oh my God.
I mean, it is it's diabolical what the state has done and how they've keeping this hidden. Now this guy wants to be our president.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
All right, we got to start lighting this up. I'm going to have to get going pretty soon. But I wanted to share this one.
I had one other thing in the news.
Oh, yeah, well, go ahead. Really but important. What happened with Matt Gaetz?
Yeah, what's up with his face?
Right.
I mean, is this Botox? Because this is alien like really weird.
Yeah,
I saw him get up to speak, and I was like, what the?
Yeah, I think he got an eyebrow lift, and he already had rather arched eyebrows. So it's really bizarre. Like, why he did that on purpose, you know? And I've seen this guy on some YouTube videos and stuff, and I've liked him. I thought he seemed like had his act together, but I can't make sense of that one.
No, I can't. This is kind of funny though.
Well, I mean a little bit, but hey, I got another one that this is a really nice share. The Superman movie, the new one, just got done filming in Cleveland. And what did James Gunn say about the filming? And I don't think I'm going to read all of it, but it's very complimentary. He said, today we're leaving after 6 amazing weeks in Cleveland. From the first moment we got here, a tad less than a year ago, the terminal tower was lit up with the colors of Superman. And I knew it was a special place. I'd walk down your streets and someone would stop me and tell me how grateful they were for that we were shooting in their city. Not once, not twice, but dozens of times. And I know you haven't been here in a long time, Merle. It's since the RNC in 2016, it's like we've just kept reinvesting in the city. It's so nice now. Wonderful background actors in the film. They were always fun and funny, and they clapped after takes. Reminded us Hollywood cynics why we make movies in the first place. And this was the birthplace of Superman. Jerry and Joe, I think Schuster is their name, created Superman here in this city.
I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't know that?
Wow.
Metropolis was based on Cleveland. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's so cool. I thought it was New York all the time.
Well, I think as the comic books evolved, they did kind of,
but I didn't
it's
know
such
it
a big city.
Another thing to be proud of about Cleveland and Ohio, and I'm proud to be from there.
Yeah.
And it's not a place for the faint of heart, man. You got to be tough to live in that environment over there, and I feel proud to have to be from there.
Well, as you say that, well, and me too. And people are always talking now, but our last 2 winters were very mild. We had one shovelable snow.
Yeah, you told me that. That's crazy. And, I mean, after everything I'd been through. Geez.
Right. So everyone around here is always talking like, oh, global warming, and this is our new normal. And I'm always like, no, I don't know about that, because it seems like every 10 years we go through this period. And now we're going to have 3 horrible winters back to back.
Yeah, it's going to be like just dark the whole time, snow up to the top of your door.
It could be. So we will see. Well,
that's the thing. In Cleveland, you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop when it comes to the weather, right?
Yeah, the humidity.
I remember one summer in Cleveland, I think it was like 1990. you know how you're always waiting for the weekend to do all these things in the summer. And man, every weekend was cold and rainy that summer. I couldn't even
I remember that.
Yeah, it was like,
there
are
were
you
jokes.
kidding me?
There were jokes. What follows 3 days of rain? Monday.
I
remember
exactly right.
Yeah.
I remember the first sunburn I got ever was that year. I went to Geauga Lake and I was wearing a tank top and it was overcast. I got a sunburn. And I think it was just those overcast days. You wouldn't think you would get a sunburn, but
sometimes, because it magnifies the water.
Yeah, that's what it was. I was like, what's wrong with me? I couldn't understand why my body hurt so much. And I'd never had a sunburn before.
Well,
anyway.
Did you have anything else that you want to go
do
over?
Actually. It's one. This is good news. It has to do with a court decision by the Supreme Court. It's called the Chevron deference. Had you heard about this?
No.
Okay, so this is why I want to bring this up, because this is huge, and this changes America. Actually, let me give you the long and short of it. Family fishing company Loper Bright Enterprises was being driven out of business because they couldn't afford the $700 per day they were being charged by the National Marine Fisheries Service to monitor their company. $700 a day.
Yeah.
The thing is, federal law doesn't authorize this agency to charge businesses for this. They just decided to start doing it in 2013. And why did they think they could get away with charging people without any legal authorization? It's because in 1984, the Chevron decision by the Supreme Court decided that regulatory agencies were the so-called experts in their field, and the court should just defer to their interpretation of the law. So, Barry, we've lived with that for the past 40 years. Federal agencies have been able to interpret laws to mean whatever they want, and the courts just had to go with it. It was called the Chevron deference, and it put bureaucracies in charge of the country. Barry, that's been the big problem here, is that our countries are being run by unelected, unelected, faceless. We don't even know what they look like. Think about what happened during COVID with all of those regulators from Health and Human Services that just made up so-called regulations, but they were laws. So it was so it's how the OSHA was able to decide that everyone who worked for a large company had to get a jab or be fired. No law gave them the authority. They just made it up. It's how ATF was able to decide a piece of plastic was a machine gun. It's how the NCRS was able to decide that a small puddle was a protected wetlands. It's how out-of-control agencies have been able to create rules out of thin air and force you to comply, and the courts had to simply defer to them because they were the experts. Imagine if your local police just arrested you for any reason, and no judge or jury was allowed to determine if you'd actually committed a crime or not. Just off to jail you go. That's what Chevron deference was. And it was not only blatantly unconstitutional, it caused immeasurable harm to everyone. And thankfully, it's gone now. We haven't even begun to feel the effects of this decision in the courts. It will be used for years to come to roll back federal agencies, and we'll all be better off for it. And that's why politicians and corporate media are freaking out about it.
Wow. Well, good share. Good share.
That's great news for America. I mean, I wanted to end our news with that because there was a lot of bad news in there, and there's some good hopeful stuff there too. But this is a big deal right here, and we're on the cusp of it right now. We'll see decisions in court, as they said, that will support this, and this is the beginning of unshackling America.
Wow. Okay, man. All right. With that, let's wind up. I like that a whole bunch. A good podcast. Boy, did we go over a lot of stuff.
We sure did.
Been a lot of crazy stuff going on. Hey, maybe we could do it again next week. I hope so. That was an unfortunate gap right there. It's just we had a lot transpire.
We did. Plus, I had 12 days on the road. I was traveling, and I was out there. My goodness, that was a long road trip right there. But man, it was great. Yeah. But it took me like several days to come back to reality again. After I got back, I was exhausted. But got to see great family. Anne Marie's family, Bob and Liz, her brother and sister-in-law, had such a great time
In
hanging
Michigan,
out with
right?
them. And just great family time. Yeah, in Michigan. It's so important for your soul to
I
be
totally
with your
agree.
family.
Well, let's just briefly, I want to say, because like you texted me, hey, just about to have some flapjacks out on the grill. I was just so happy for you. You were out on the lake like every day, right?
Yes. And
So
Bob
cool.
and Liz have a pontoon boat, and they've got a speedboat as well, and it's on this lake called Wolf Lake. And one of the highlights was on 4th of July for me. And they have this lake. I'd say the perimeter of it is probably 5 or 6 miles all the way around it, and they've got all these little cottages and cabins all around it, and a whole bunch of pontoon boats. And so on 4th of July, they have in the afternoon they have a boat parade, and it's the coolest thing. We were we they took the pontoon and the speedboat, and we were all a part of it. I was on the speedboat, and they have a boat that leads this parade all around the perimeter, and it's playing this great classic rock. These huge speakers with just all my favorite songs were playing. I was moved by this in a big way, because I started to think about America and the greatness of America and these pontoon boats. I mean, they're not cheap, and there's so many of them. And these people have these beautiful houses on the lake. But you know what? Nobody gave those to them.
Right.
They earned them the American way. And they were so proud of their boats, and they had bunting around it, all these decorations. And I actually got choked up, like, God, I'm so lucky to be a part of this. And I was moved. Also, everybody had these huge squirt guns. And so it was sort of like a reenactment of the battle from 1812. We were all shooting each other and everything and laughing. And oh my God, it was the best. But God bless America, man. I love this country, and I love what it stands for. It feels like we're going back to the wholesomeness of America. I hope I'm right about this too, but it does feel like that. I'm hopeful for that. It's in my prayers. I think the reason that when I see Trump, and it makes me tear up now, isn't because of him. It's because I feel like the hope for our country is coming back.
I like the sounds.
I prayed for that so much, and I feel like that's what's happening. And
I hope you're right, because what I really would like it to be a thing to be patriotic again. It's a thing to want to be patriotic, and because it's been the opposite for years now. Been anti-America, and that's the only thing you're allowed to talk about. I have a shirt with an American flag on it, like done in a real creative way, and I want people to be proud of that, of seeing that, rather than
me too.
Yeah, rather than have this darkness hanging over it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm inspired. I want more patriotic stuff to wear around. I love our flag, and I actually think it's absolutely beautiful, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of this country. So yeah,
good.
Right on, Barry.
All right, brother.
Good stuff, brother.
Yeah, you too.
Tell them how they can sign up to subscribe.
Go to over50startingover.com. Sign up for our email list. You'll get all this to your email box as it happens. You go to YouTube, Over 50 Starting Over, but go to Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5 Apple review, please. Listen to it. You don't need to. Well, we did a lot of good shares today, though. There's a lot to see today. So, YouTube, but you know what? Go to Spotify. You can do both the audio and video there, and we won't get kicked off of there.
Right on.
All right. With that, hey, buddy.
Great stuff, man.
Yeah, have a good weekend. Love you.
global powers that are trying to consolidate governments into a one world government and to really sap all of the value out of these countries and commandeer it to themselves. That is really what's happening here, according to what I can see. And all of these things are in the Bible. They're highlighted very deeply in the Bible. And Barry, I wanted to show you something that came out about 4 weeks ago now. Speaking of the Bible and things that have happened, there is a prophecy that came out about 3.5 weeks ago. Now, you can believe this or not, I think it's incredibly coincidental that this happened. I'm going to play this and then I'm going to speak to it in a second. Hold on.
Saw an attempt on his life. This bullet flew by his ear and it came so close to his head that it busted his eardrum. And I saw he fell to his knees during this time frame and he started worshiping the Lord. He got radically born again during this time frame. I'm talking, people say he's saved now, but he becomes really on fire for Jesus, for what I saw coming. And then I saw people interceding when I saw him winning the presidency through great, the Lord showed me it would go clear into the summer. Great persecution would come on him through the judges and through the law and all these people trying to sue him and all this stuff. But there would
for this country that I love so much. And then they won't be fought tooth and nail by